So 5 keys to successful program management office setup. We're gonna really dive into the 5 aspects of it. I mean, there are obviously a lot of things that we need to set up a large program or a fairly large program in place. But I was looking and focusing on 5 key areas, and this is what we're going to be talking about. Just quickly, I guess our marketing people will not let me do any of these webinars without telling you about us something. So here's some of the overview about our company and what we do and how we help, and a little bit about me, that I am former MVP, 3 years MVP for Microsoft project, and PMP and certified Scrum Master, and I've built successful program frameworks for programs with multi-billion-dollar budgets and things like that. So I mean, I can talk about that on a off topic. And basically, I am at this point managing partner at the Trusted IT Group, TIG, Trusted IT Group, where we are a Microsoft Gold partner in project management competency. Well, other competencies too, but basically, it all surrounding this major project management 365 topic here, where we are basically a Microsoft 365 partner, providing all kinds of consultancy and technology around the project management based on the Office 365 ecosystem of tools like Project, like Teams, and others. You can see in the upper left corner. We also certified in implementing Dynamics 365 project service automation, as well as the recently started implementing the Agile solution on the development team side, which is the Visual Studio Team Services, as well as working heavily on the analytics and artificial intelligence. There are a couple of exciting projects that we had undertaken recently about bot technology and artificial intelligence. So that's all around project management 365. And basically, what the framework that I'll be talking about is kind of using that ecosystem of tools and solutions. All right. Some of the services, we have all kinds of configurations and enhancements around the project online and project server, Microsoft projects. We have quick starts, not so quick starts, and things like that. Reports and dashboards, analytics, as I mentioned earlier. We also provide the integration services for all kinds of Agile solutions, for all kinds of other applications and line of business solutions. One of the key flagman key services is the managed services, which is basically uncapped support for our customers using our subject matter experts in the company. So when we provide assistance on understanding and training of some of the aspects of Microsoft PPM, solution-based training, and Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider. So we are actually a Microsoft Solution Provider that we can sell licenses, and you can purchase licenses for Microsoft directly from us. So, all right, enough of that. Let's actually talk about something exciting, and the large projects. So some of the largest projects. I just wanted to kind of set up this stage a little bit in terms of how large those projects can be. And sometimes we're talking about large projects in terms of budget. Sometimes we're talking large projects in terms of how many people or countries it involves. But here are some of the largest projects, and this is kind of get your head around like what we may possibly talk about, what kind of frameworks needs to be set up in order to do that. So here we go. This is a Dubai airport, right? This is something that is been going on for a while. It has 21 square miles, right? And by 2018, well, supposedly it should be already coming out soon. So the total cost is $32 billion. So these type of projects are incredibly large, incredibly complex. The other one is the $64 billion, which is, it's twice as more expensive than the airport, is Dubai Island, where there's a consortium for all kinds of theme parks and water parks and Six Flags, Dubai and others. So there's just, you can find a lot of these projects, actually in the Dubai territory. So that's also interesting. The other large projects are like this one in the Libya, the great man-made river, right? The man-made river. So it's so exciting how this big project are being undertaken, how the human race is basically reached the levels where we can actually focus on some of this fundamentally transferring some of this nature forces of nature. So this particular one in Libya is started in 1985, and it's going to complete in 2030, and it's going to irrigate more than 350,000 acres of arable land, and will substantially increase available drinking water in most of the Libya urban centers. So that's something that the water is very much a subject in many of these projects. Like for example, this one where 50% of the China population is living on the north side, where they have only 20% of the water supply. So they're building a lot of these dams to redirect some of the water to supply that water to the northern parts of the country, where the water supply is limited. So this is something that really fascinating. A lot of moving parts, a lot of projects. Another airport in China, and of course this is International Space Station, where the total cost of this is going to be over $1 trillion. So can you imagine how large or complex this project will be, and where this space station is actually making 92 circles the Earth every 92 minutes. So that's also fascinating. Anyway, how do we build some of these frameworks for some of these projects, and what are those 5 keys? So before we talk about these 5 keys, let me just talk about some of the challenges. So first and foremost, the first thing that you probably think of is the size, right? Everything about this project is humongous. Everything about this project is huge as far as the size of the budget, size of the team, size of everything, right? All kinds of different sizes are going to be doubled, tripled, quadrupled based on what we typically manage as far as fairly large projects even. So the other thing is that these large projects, this large size, has this tendency to hard to start, right? You need to put a lot of pieces together in order to start the project, and it's basically have this inertia or velocity where you can't really stop this machine when you actually started it, or if you started it and you need to adjust this huge sizable very, very big size project, it's hard to actually change the direction at which it's going. So the size is very challenging when it comes to this project. The other one is the complexity. Purely the technical complexity or other complex technology or architectural decisions that needs to be made. And I'm not talking just about the construction projects. I'm talking about large IT projects or large business transformation projects that involves maybe a combination of the construction, maybe IT, software, and all other things. The other thing that is relevant to the complexity is the number of POCs, so proof of concepts, that needs to be made. So a lot of these larger projects they're unprecedented, right? A large project, you have never been doing this large or this complex before. So So number of POCs will have to increase, which complicates the thing. The experience, the number of SMEs that you need to put in place in order to be effective, in order to be productive. That's another thing. And again, I'm not talking about just those keys. I'm just talking about the different challenges. The experience, the SMEs, top-notch SMEs and resources needs to be in place in order to kind of push this program to a success. Tools, right? A lot of special tools that are not, you cannot go and buy it off the shelf most of the time. You would have to kind of be creative in how you apply these tools, but you have to apply and supply yourself with a lot of tools, a lot of technology that will help you move faster. And again, because of the size, that adds the complexity into everything. So the tools is very important. The budget, the budget, obviously, if you start, the budget challenge is always there, and we've seen the large projects being stopped because of the budget, because of poor planning for the budget, and etc. The people, and here's the people in a sense where we talk about the people in the sense where there's you need to set up different teams and vendors and set up the management structure, set up the procurement in place. So there's a lot of moving parts as far as how do you organize those teams together in order to assemble that structure where you can report at the program level. And the commitment. Commitment. This is where we would like everyone to understand that there's one project that we're all working for, there's one big program, and we need to get the commitment from all the team members, from all the vendors to stay with us and get to the finish line together. So this is some kind of a sell it to everyone and get the buy-in from everyone on the team to get this done, the way we are planning it to be done. And obviously there are many more other challenges that I'm not mentioning here, and that may not be applicable. But this is just kind of get you thinking and what kind of challenges we have in order to set this up. And here I'm gonna slightly get into the how we actually approach these challenges. So 5 keys to successful program management office. All right, let's start with one. Deal with size. Obviously, in front of us we have this large thing, this large project, this large program, right? Multiple everything, multiple people, work streams, multiple scope items. Everything is complex. So how we need to deal with that size, and I'll dive into that aspect, in a few slides here. The other key would be the plug-in. So this is where the program management office. This is where the program managers, or the project managers, or the workstream managers. This is where we need to be plugged in, not with just our teams. We need to be plugged in with all kinds of technology that we're developing, or all kinds of the constructions that we're building, all kinds of aspects of the objective that we're trying to achieve. We need to understand, as much as we can, the details. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. The lifeblood, right? I'll talk about what is it after we build everything, what is it that we need to supply in order to kind of circulate this lifeblood through this framework, so we can stay alive, so we can stay alive with the current situation, and we can manage it without keeping it too dry. Command. There's this key of making sure that we have people accountable for different things, and in this case, we would have to build a hierarchy of responsibilities and roles, and make sure that we don't have any loopholes where where we would have some of the areas unattended. Some of the areas are not accountable for, accounted for. So all the areas needs to have the owner and responsible person to report, and we'll talk about that too. And finally, share the success. And this is some kind of psychological, social, and in a way spiritual way that we're sharing this. But after all, some of these larger projects, they're very much driven off of this big idea of making either the world a better place, or the company a better company, where we're implementing like a major ERP system, or making something very, very big that has an impact. So by sharing the success and making sure we have all the people participating in that success, that this story will be heard and acknowledged, and we'll also talk about that too. All right, I'm gonna speed up a little bit because I don't want to show you some of the demo of that as well. So how do we deal with the sites? So basically, the first and foremost, the step is to decomposition, right? And we need to be able to split the whole universe of things that we have to deal with, right? As far as the size aspect, as far as the size challenge. So how we need to decompose the scope, we need to decompose the schedule, we need to decompose the other work streams, and the term of the work stream came into the program management in some of my projects, some of my programs that I've built. So it's very common to use that one, and it's basically showing us the different streams of activities that needs to be done within a particular area, or within a particular phase, or within a particular team. So basically, we need to split this into the manageable pieces, right? So if you have large scope, let's decompose it into many other pieces, and so they are manageable pieces, and we can control that. We can have the way to also roll this up to the program level. So decomposition all the way until it becomes manageable again. Okay. So that's the other method of to do the decomposition is this fundamentally, creating this 1D, 2D, 3D, and 4D models where we're basically splitting everything. So if we're starting from this dot, it's basically, if we're looking at this one dot, we're saying, okay, this is the program that we need to deal with. Okay, this is large, but this is just one thing that we're looking at. If we're looking at it closely, there's more to it, right? And we just start zooming into, the complexity of this. And this is the representation of like 1D, right? This is the line. This is the 2D, right? This is like the surface, right? We have the square here. This is the 3D example. Well, you probably wonder, well, what would be the 4D? And it's easy for the human being, easy to imagine the 3D, right? Because we can relate to that. We've all been to the 3D movies now and things like that. You can probably understand the 4D, like when you're adding something else to it. So in this case, we're adding, we can add different things to it. In this case, we're adding time. So this 4D model is basically the 3D model with additional axle, which is the time. And this is the concept. This is the concept that we're using to decompose different things that we need to deal with when it comes to program management, when it comes to the large program. So we need to decompose the scope. We need to decompose it into different work streams. We may need to decompose it into different phases. We need to decompose it into different teams. So these all are different dimensions. Let me just give you an example. This is the first step of two dimensions, right? We have the work over time. How much work we need to put on any given time on this timeline, right? This is very simple to get and understand. So here is when adding another dimension, which is the project phase, right? I mean, at which phase we need to put some work, and what kind of work, and how much work for any given time, right? And that's already 3 dimensions, if you notice, right? The time, the work, and the project phase. So we can add another one. Look at that. So we need another one where we add in the work stream, which is another another dimension, another slice, a different type of slice that can give us the information about, okay, at this phase, we need to engage this type of work stream, which will drive, the accountability, right? Accountability of, the work stream has an owner, and this owner needs to be responsible for their own piece of work. So this is the this is actually a 4-dimensional model that we have over here, and nothing stops anyone from adding, a 5th dimension or 6th dimension or 7th dimension. So technically, and a project framework, a program framework using Microsoft, it can give you all kinds of dimensions that you can use, and technically there's an unlimited number of dimensions that you can use. Obviously, it's getting harder and harder to understand and set up, so we would want to also make sure we're keeping it simple so it's easier to manage. But for some of these large projects, we have to come up with a multi-dimensional framework. Okay. I will give you some of the. We'll give you some of this demo, like how to actually represent this information on the MS project, and how this is incorporated in the project online and project server, which is the cloud version of MS project. Sorry for the very vague term here, but I will be having a section in our webinar where I'll be able to show you. This is just looped 2 videos that are just giving you a very high-level glimpse of what this will look like. But I'm just going to talk about all other keys over here, and then we can switch to demo. Okay. All right. So plugin. So the second key is, like we talked about the size, right, and how we need to deal with the size. The second key is the plugin. We need to engage. We need to engage, and we need to not just loosely or somehow manage it without, but following some kind of methodology, like PMBOK methodology or Prince2 methodology or Agile methodology. We need to understand exactly the problems that people are dealing with when they're developing the tools, when they're working on the project, when they're working on the work stream. How does this impact our strategic objective for the program, or just an objective for the program, right? So we need to understand and make sense all the time. All our reports, all our information needs to make a lot of sense. So connect with people with the powers that be. So we need to connect with the people who are responsible for success, and we need to connect with the people who are actually doing the work. So we need to connect with all of these outlets here. Stay connected. So there's a reason why where I put it as a separate bullet point, is just to stay connected. Just connecting with others and staying connected are 2 different things. So we need to constantly keep those communication channels live, and make sure the messages are flying and accepted on different ends of the wire. So the other one is connect with the culture. We're dealing with all kinds of different geographically spread teams, and obviously this may possess some other challenges. So we need to take care of that. Be able to hold detailed conversation about aspects of the program. So, and educate yourself and your team on the subject of the program. So we need to, even if we're, coming to a project that is completely new to us, we need to find a way to get to know what we're dealing with. If I am a new program manager or something like, I don't know, International Space Station, and I have very limited knowledge about this, you know what? Before I really get into this business of managing the program, I would have to do a lot of training on how what are the key aspects of it, what are the nuances that I need to know in order to effectively set up the program and manage it. So basically, maybe if you need to be an astronaut to manage this project, then you may want to take this course too. So that should be exciting, huh? All right, and be agile and maintain the status quo. So in order to plug in and stay relevant, you need to basically find the ways to connect those people with the powers that be and the teams in the ground to make sure that all the status quo is unchanged and people are still believing in everything. The lifeblood. I guess I need to speed up a little bit. The lifeblood. This is all kinds of different things that we set up to manage the program, and obviously starting with the decomposed schedules and work streams and phases and others, we would also recommend to implement their earned value, right? So this is something that Microsoft Project has been dealing with, for a long time successfully, and we've set up quite a bit of earned value frameworks in the past, and this has been, if you get this going, this is giving tremendous value. This is giving you ahead of time proactive analytics. It's just enabling the artificial intelligence to actually use the data to project, and forecast some of these key things like schedule, the cost, etc. So there's a lot of that needs to be set up, and we see a lot of value in doing that. Kick off these cadences and manage those and drive those steering committees. Right, we need to be able to establish this communication with the steering committee. We need to establish the governance and the communication with that. Lead and encourage change management process. It's part of any project management framework. The change management has become very critical here. Obviously, you need to take that into account. Admire and encourage hard work. And I mean, you'll probably say, why would you put it here? I guess I wanted to just emphasize how important it becomes to have that team of the people in place where you would be able to put a lot of hard work in place and put it towards the program. If you would have this has become very critical. If someone in your team is being not excelling in the way they work, not excelling in the way they're putting their hours, and not putting all of their energy into this, you may have the risk of having things slip through the fingers and having that kind of loosen up the control of the bigger picture. So that's extremely important. Put technology as much as you can to help you, right? And balance team skills. This is something that also addresses the you may have count wise, right? You may have the head count wise enough resources to do the work, but you may not have enough skilled resources to do the work. So in other words, if you need 100 people to do a certain thing, maybe you have only 60 people qualified to do that. So when you deal with the larger numbers, it's become very critical to have the right people with the right skills. And how many times you have one person doing the work of 10 people, and you need to avoid this situation and make sure you have 10 people doing the work for 100 and hiring only 10 people instead of hiring 100. So in the larger numbers, the scales are much larger, and the room for error is much bigger, and the risk of not making it in time is bigger. So balance the team skills and the leadership. We'll talk about this in the next key here. This is some of the example of the leveling of some of your team members across the work streams automatically, basically, making sure that they're scheduled to do the work and this is like automatically doing the reschedule for them. So I'll dive into this part of the demo too when we're done with this. The fourth key is the command. And here's what we're saying is establish the chain of command, strict hierarchy of responsibilities. The key importance here is basically you're dealing with the large amount of things, the large amount of work streams, the large amount of teams, the large amount of vendors. So you need to understand how the structure is working. You know, who are the peers, who are reporting to who, and basically at any given time, if you're on the top of this pyramid here, or somewhere close to the top, you need to understand what's going on below, right? You need to quickly get the information and understand where we are and how we're doing, and report this to the top. So basically, the same way, you know, it works the same way for any of these levels. So that's why the technology and the framework is important. So when you actually, you know, have everything, you know, technologically, you know, built in the framework, then you can push the button, basically get this information right away. Now that's why this hierarchy and change of responsibilities is extremely important. Well, and finally is the share the success. You'll probably say, why would this be an important thing to talk about? But basically, what I'm saying here is that you need to set up the framework in a way that you let everyone who is participating in this program, you let everyone know that, you know, the success is going to be shared. There's some line of you know, chain of events that will happen, you know, when we're getting, you know, through this program successfully, right? If we're achieving a certain, you know, next milestone, when we are getting a new achievement on the program, and we need to tell the story, right? We need to tell the story just to keep the spirits up and kind of normal, you know, corporate culture. But in the same way, it does help for the program to understand and communicate some of the success stories to just from the communication perspective. So build and maintain good team, be good at politics, win points and capitalize. So this is again, we're talking about politics here. That in the larger programs, there's no way you can avoid, you know, playing politics. So you have to be good at that, and that's another key, right? Be proactive and share success and turn issues into success stories. So every issue that you're having, I guess our, you know, art as program managers to turn it in a way that we have to deal with that, and then the way we are dealing with that, turning this issue into a success story after all. So that's another thing. So anyway, that's a part where I switch to a quick demo here, and let me switch here. Okay. All right, so this is basically an example of the program framework where this program is tailored for setting up the Office 365. You know, and this could be any large program where we would decompose things into work streams and phases and other dimensions, right? From some of the larger programs that I mentioned in the very beginning about this, you know, airports or, you know, space station or things like that, then we can have much more work streams and much more in phases and stages that we need to break it out into. So, but basically, this has given us an overall overview of the program, right? And it is all based on Microsoft Project Online, which is the project server, Project Online. It's the same Microsoft PPM application. So right now it's completely based on the cloud. Cloud gives us a lot more capabilities and to collaborate and make it fully, accessible throughout the world, and we can just log in and password, just have internet access, and we got it here. We can have also an option to bring some of this offline for some of the remote areas where some of the larger projects, where sometimes it's hard to get internet when you're in the open space. I mean, in the actual space. So sometimes you need to work with what you have, and we have all kinds of options to bring it from Excel or something like that to when you're offline, and then bring it back to online. But anyway, all of this information is basically a quick dashboard. So from the home page, you start here, and you kind of get the first understanding on how is your large program is split, and how you can drill into some of this information. So let's say I want to start with the requirements, and here's just Donut over here. I can click on this requirement and look at how, what are the projects within my program that are contributing to my requirements work stream, right? And how are they doing, right? I can look at their status, early, late, or on schedule. I can look at the duration, KPIs, and I can tune this off to show all kinds of different information. Or I can look at some of this late projects and quickly click on that link and actually open the actual project, right? So when I look at the details in the schedule, look at the dates, and start looking at it from the Microsoft project perspective. I'm sure a lot of you have already familiar with the Microsoft project as a schedule management tool. So this is the actual schedule of that of that one project that is pertaining to the requirements category. So click on the requirements. Well, I can look at I want to see what are the build projects involved, or look at the change management, right? What are the projects that are involved in change management for this program? So I can look at this from different perspectives. If I am the owner of some of these projects, if I am the owner of the work stream requirement, I can look at it separately, right? And I can create some of these filters or slices differently. So I can also, you can see that there's 11 out of 12 different dashboards that I have here. So I can quickly go to any other different dashboard, and this is basically from the reporting perspective, giving me a lot of opportunity to slice and dice and review the information on my program. So this is where how I can quickly pass along the information from the top layers of the management of the program down to the very bottom, where the teams on the ground are responding to activity by activity, whether it's done, not done, it's to be rescheduled. It's all part of the one single ecosystem. Also, I'd like to just give you a little bit of the breakdown of these phases and stages. How do we decompose this program? So we decompose this into the phases, work streams, and then each work streams would be decomposed into different activities, tasks that are managed by assignees, and the actual work streams having the work streams owners, right? So here we're saying, like, for the phase one and visioning, we have 2 work streams involved, and in these 2 work streams we have these particular projects that are responsible for the requirements for this work stream, right? And you can set this hierarchy differently. It's basically driven off this metadata, but we can roll it up. We can understand and put it into one perspective and look at it from one view, and understanding what's going on with this very work stream for this very phase, right? And the same thing, this is for the work stream number 4. This change management work stream. I have all these projects lined up like this, where all these projects would roll up into the change management work stream. And that's, I can call into this, either it could be one person who manages all these 4 projects, or we can have further down hierarchy that breaks out the ownership of all of these items. All right, and and from that perspective, I can also set up the different resource management capabilities where I can put my resources in and assign them. Let's say I'd like to assign add a new engagement and assign a resource to one of these work streams, and I keep assigning, have my line managers being start assigning some of these resources when I'm at the planning stage, and not just for this one person, just for all, right? And I look at this, some of them are over allocated, some of them are not, and I can simply click on the level of engagement, and then it basically offers me the what if scenario that it balances all the resource pool across the entire project portfolio. Well, that's really a new, and we're proud of being one of the pioneers here to do this automatic leveling across the portfolio, and it gives you the information about the what if, basically it's telling you what has changed, and you can commit this and propose this scenario to be approved by the resource manager. So that's just one of the aspects of the resource balancing within the program, like how can you effectively manage those resources for the larger, multi-project environments. And in this case, this is something that we are, we're talking about as a good, good tool to balance those resources.